If you're lost in your love, then you will find it time after time. If you fall, I will catch you. You will listen to a podcast tonight. Podcast tonight. Podcast tonight. Hello, everyone. My name is Wyatt.
And I'm Rhett.
And you are with the Brower Brothers. It's good to see all of your beautiful faces, as always. Rhett, do you have a word for our viewers?
No.
A firm hello.
Hello.
This is a very special day for us, a very special episode of the podcast. This is our 10th episode.
Double digits.
You've made it way too far. This is well over 10 hours of endurement, so thank you.
Most people do not last 10 hours with us.
We love you all
unless
dearly.
we lock them in the cage.
The cage. It's in our apartment.
Mm-hmm. We have one bedroom and a dungeon in our 2-bedroom apartment. Don't tell our landlords.
And the dungeon is in our bedroom.
Yes, the second bedroom is storage.
It's just storage.
There's 2 beds, a dungeon, and then a bathroom, and then another room that's just for storage.
It just has boxes.
Yeah.
Empty boxes. And because we love you all so much, we decided to do an episode dedicated to love. Is it romantic love? Is it brotherly/sisterly love? Who's to say?
It's both of those things,
It's
actually.
both.
And mostly it's dedicated to one listener of the podcast.
And that is our mother.
Yes, our mother.
We're doing her favorite movie today. It's a classic of the cult variety.
Mm-hmm.
It came out in 1996, and it is
1997.
Came out in 1997, and it is called
Romy and Michele's High School Reunion.
This is a tremendous film starring Lisa Kudrow and Mira Sorvino, and it's
hilarious.
It's hilarious. It's a true comedy.
Mm-hmm. Watched it a lot growing up and in my adult years because it's my mom's favorite movie and she watches it all the time. So that's probably why.
It's probably it. Yeah.
She it's the only movie she can remember. Like we'll go watch movies. We'll watch movies with her, or we'll go to the movies and watch a movie.
She'll be in the room,
and she won't. And then like when we go to talk about the movie, like later, like in the next couple of days, she'll be like, "I've never seen that movie. I don't know what you're talking about."
Star Wars? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know that one. But this one she always can remember. With that,
we've got a very long, lengthy synopsis and sequel planned. So without further ado, we're going to dive right in to Romy and Michele's High School Reunion. We're going to start with a quandary. Was anybody really cool in high school? Probably not. A seemingly meaningless chapter of life, for whatever reason, holds so much merit on the coming years, shaping people and their perceptions long after they no longer have to deal with homework or bullies. In this institution, people learn of concepts relating to status and hierarchy, sex, and friendship. And even though everyone has a different experience, perhaps they are all more alike than most of us would care to expect.
This concept is most definitely lost on Romy and Michele. These late 20-something fun-loving women spend their days at odd, low-paying jobs or not working at all, and their nights at various nightclubs. Spending most of their time shopping and picking out clothes, Romy and Michele don't look dissimilar to a duo of Daphnes from Scooby-Doo. And even though both of them are quite attractive, they didn't always shine quite as brightly as they do now. Coming from Tucson, Arizona, the two of them moved to Los Angeles 10 years earlier in order to get away from their mundane lives and make something of themselves in the big city. And 10 years later, in their shared Venice apartment, they're living the dream. At least they think so.
That is until Romy runs into someone from their past. While working as the cashier at a Jaguar dealership, she comes face to face with Heather Mooney. Heather is the antithesis of Romy and Michele. While they are tall, blonde, and joyous, she's a short brunette with a perpetually bad attitude, with slams and quips as endless as the chain of smoke being pumped into her lungs. Romy is ecstatic to see Heather. Heather, not so much. While a line of people form behind them, Romy chit-chats with Heather, learning that she invented a special rolling paper designed to burn faster, allowing people to smoke entire cigarettes on the go. She has clearly done well for herself, considering she is looking into buying a Jaguar. And although Romy would love to talk all day, Heather cuts the conversation short, saying that she'll see her at the reunion in a week. The reunion?
Romy and Michele panic. They had no idea that their 10-year high school reunion was even happening, let alone happening in just 1 week. And even though they both love their lives and have an absolute blast with each other, Romy soon realizes that they haven't done anything of merit since the reunion. They don't have cool jobs, cool boyfriends, and they don't have any impressive stories to tell once they get back to their hometown. And considering the people they grew up around, that is not a good thing.
Taking a trip down memory lane, Romy and Michele, with the help of an old yearbook, reminisce about their wonderful time as teens. Diving into a flashback, we are introduced to the 18-year-old versions of both Romy and Michele, and they look quite different from their modern depictions. Romy is a lot heavier and wears an awkward brown haircut. Michele looks pretty much the same as ordinary Lisa Kudrow, however she is forced to move slightly robotically on account of a large metal back brace. Still rocking wild outfits and having a bunch of fun, Romy and Michele endure a strange and rather unpleasant band of characters. Heather Mooney looks and behaves almost exactly the same. However, she's in love with the dweebish Sandy Frink, who just so happens to be in love with Michele, who just so happens to not really like him back. Toby Walters, champion of the yearbook club and nerdy friend of Sandy Frink, is constantly upbeat and positive, which paired with her proximity to Sandy Frink is probably why she is tormented by an adolescent Heather. All three of these characters, however, are nice and rather friendly to both Romy and Michele, but there is an evil brewing at the popular table.
Making their way to the outdoor 80s cafeteria, Romy and Michele are forced to interact with a group of rather unpleasant young women, ruled over by the exceptionally rude Christy Masters. The girls pick on Romy and Michele from afar, on account of their bizarre style and Michelle's disability. It's a low point in an otherwise fun life for the two of them, but Romy at least has something to take her mind off of things. That thing is Billy Christensen. Tall, handsome, and totally stupid, Billy is a football player and the object of Romy's romantic obsession, but it just so happens that he is dating Christy.
After Lisa Luder, a member of the Coven, slightly compliments Romy and Michelle's outfits, the rest of the pack turns on her and decides to inflict some damage upon the weirdos. Grabbing a few magnets and keeping them safely hidden behind her back, Christy makes her way over to Romy and Michele, who, upon seeing her arrival, get kind of excited that the popular girl is paying them a visit. What they don't know is that her entire goal is to stick the magnets onto Michelle's back brace and to assert her dominance over Romy by blatantly stealing her hamburger, after Romy declared her love for hamburgers just moments before. She's a total dick, and everyone picks on the back brace girl as she struggles to get the magnets off of her back.
The scene of them in high school. All the scenes of them in high school are hilarious.
Yeah, there's a few flashbacks. I really like the character of Sandy Frink.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's tremendous, and the fact that I feel like I don't know if there was an equivalent in our high school of the Heather Mooney liking the Sandy Frink, but just the idea of that alone is really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another thing that I wanted to discuss about Christy. I think they did a really good job with this movie of the whole message of you don't know, you can only see high school from your point of view.
Yeah.
And there's the whole thing about hierarchy and status and stuff like that. And Christy's the top, from the point of view of Romy and Michele.
Yes.
But she knows that Romy likes Billy, and that eats her up. And then when Lisa Luder, her friend, denies what she had to say because Christy's like, oh, look at their outfits, they look so ugly. And then Lisa Luder's like, oh, actually they made them in home economics and they're pretty cool. That made Christy crumble.
Yeah, why? Yeah, if there is a hierarchy with her at the top, why did these two girls crack her, ego? Why did her perception of everything?
For one reason or another, she was intimidated by Romy and Michele.
It might be just because they were having fun. Because then remember the way they countered all of it is they were like, just laugh about something, and they laughed.
Yeah.
They pretended to laugh.
I think you're right.
They can't go back to the Hornet's Nest without better lives. So with 1 week to go, the pair get started on their total makeovers. Hitting the gym in heels, Romy plans to lose more weight before the reunion, and Michele tries her best to get a job. However, their attempts are unsuccessful, and Romy winds up gaining a pound despite her attempts. With nothing changed, it isn't looking good, and time has run out. But Romy has one last ace in the hole.
Exploiting the romantic pursuits of her coworker Ramon, Romy attempts to use her flirtation to acquire a Jaguar for the weekend of the reunion. However, her plan soon backfires when Ramon wants to have sex with her. They meet in the middle, and as customers and coworkers stand outside of the office, Romy shouts about how good of a lover Ramon is, pretending to have sex with him until obtaining the keys and then cutting the session short and walking out. Oh, Ramon.
This scene, I don't know why, but I guess This scene should just prove like how see, it's weird because they care so much about what these people think of them, about what people think of them.
Mm-hmm.
But she was fine with everybody thinking she had loud, basically public sex with this guy Ramon.
Yeah.
For access to a Jaguar.
So she's kind of destroying her own real life.
Yeah, well,
to make up a fake one.
They care so much about what other people think of them. But I guess it's just certain people because she doesn't care that the dirty mechanics think that she's sleeping with dirty
Ramon,
mechanic
who is so gross that she won't actually sleep with him.
So like I feel like I guess if I cared what people thought about me so much, if you cared about what people thought about you so much, wouldn't you rather to get access to something you want, sleep with somebody in private,
have secret sex
with somebody for access to the Jaguar rather than perceived
gross
dirty
public,
sex
yeah.
for access to the Jaguar?
Yeah, because the whole idea obviously is that Ramon can tell people that he had sex with Romy.
Well, she did it so that it happened in front of other people. There was people like outside of the office.
Yeah, so the whole idea is like everyone's gonna know that this happened.
Mm-hmm. The only person who knows that it didn't happen is her and him.
Her and him. Yeah.
Yeah. Except the only one who's gonna say that it didn't happen
is her.
Is her.
Maybe.
I feel like this could be construed as a flaw because this proves that she doesn't care at all what other people think of her.
Yeah, but she's a dummy.
She only cares about herself.
I've been on a strict diet all week. I've only eaten gummy bears, candy corns, and jelly beans. I wish I had your discipline. They're not the brightest bulbs
I know
in the chandelier.
You're right. So yeah, that then makes it so that there's no flaw because they're stupid.
What I took away from this scene was that the writers of Easy A stole their whole fucking flow.
They're like, oh, this could be a movie.
This could be a whole movie. And you know who else was in that movie? Lisa Kudrow.
Lisa Kudrow was.
Maybe Lisa Kudrow came
That's
up
another
with
movie
the idea.
that our mom loves.
Mm-hmm.
Is Easy A.
I think our mom just loves Lisa Kudrow. I love Lisa Kudrow.
Mm-hmm. The girls are on the road, and as they drive through the desert of the Southwest, they game plan what is going to happen when they get to the reunion. With their lives still uncool, they have to tell everyone something. So Romy comes up with the brilliant lie that the two of them invented Post-its. It's a genius plan that is totally going to work. But there is just one problem. In the fictional story of their invention, Romy did all the smart stuff and Michele only came up with the idea to make them yellow. This lie creates a schism between the two of them that is only temporarily healed by lunch.
Their morality and also like just I don't know about like if morality is the right word, but they're so willing to lie about everything.
That would be morality, wouldn't it? Because morals are why you shouldn't lie.
I just think these characters are so iconically funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's timeless. They're so funny. Stopping at a diner a few miles outside of Tucson, Romy and Michele change into new, more sophisticated outfits. Wearing pantsuits, the two of them come out of the bathroom, asking the waitress for 2 orders of the businesswoman special. Do you have any businesswoman specials?
On the road again, Romy and Michele make their way down the final stretch of highway towards Tucson. However, the make-pretend damage has been done, and just before they make it to the reunion, the pair have a falling out. And after tonight, they're not friends anymore. And from the looks of things, it seems they really mean it.
When they arrive at the reunion, the pair go their separate ways. Michele is on her own, and being slighted by Romy, she decides that she's going to stick to the lie and tell everyone she invented Post-its. Romy pursues her old crush, Billy Christensen, in spite of what he did to her at the prom all those years ago. Even though he was dating Christy Masters at the time, Romy asked him to dance, to which he told her he would. However, upon the orders of his girlfriend, he can't think for himself. He skipped town and left Romy standing at a metaphorical altar. But that was the past, and Billy isn't with Christy anymore.
But Michele is. Seeing the group of popular girls, she approaches them and sees where it is their lives have gone. And after hearing of their success, tells them that she invented Post-its. It is an impressive claim, no doubt. So Christy puts her on the spot and asks for the scientific formula of glue. And wouldn't you know it, Michele somehow gave it to her.
Romy has made her way out to the car with Billy Christensen, and Michele follows her out there, only to be hit by a limousine. Flying hilariously over the hood of the car and all the way across the roof, falling off the back, she soon learns that the limo belongs to none other than Sandy Frink. The nerd from high school looks entirely different, with a new face that he bought after he made his millions of dollars. The two make out in the back of the limo, and with a report from Toby Walters, they learn that the awards are being given out as they speak. Awards?
Rushing inside without a shirt, Michele is called onto the stage alongside Romy to win the award for most successful since graduation. 2 cars are pulled into the building, and they both ride off into the sunset in different directions.
Years later, an ancient Michele, married to Sandy Frink, learns that Romy is dying, and being coerced by her husband to mend the broken bond between the two of them, Michele calls her old friend one last time. But after a debate involving the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Romy dies, and Michele hangs up the phone. That's that. Michele thinks about what things could have been like if it all ended differently that night, and luckily for her, she doesn't have to think too hard.
Waking up in the front seat of the Jaguar, Michele realizes that everything she just experienced was only a dream. Making her way into the reunion, she sees that most things are pretty similar to the scenario her dreams came up with. However, the key difference that immediately jumps out to her in the form of a coven of popular women. With all of them sporting baby bellies, they walk with the arrogance they had from high school. As Romy talks to them about how she invented Post-its, Heather Mooney walks in and inadvertently ruins everything. Being an inventor herself, she knows the inventor of Post-its, name-dropping Arthur Fry, and dropping a massive bomb on Romy's lie.
You see that? See what I did there?
There's a rhyme.
Christy Christensen Masters, the wife of Billy Christensen, laughs at Romy and gets her gaggle of slags to prod and torment her. But Michele is not going to go down the road from her dream. So abandoning her anger about only contributing the color yellow, she approaches the women and stands up for Romy. After insulting both their weight and unborn children, she grabs Romy by the hand and the two of them leave. And after a heart-to-heart, Romy and Michele decide that these people suck and their opinions don't matter. So heading to the car, they throw on their best outfits and make their way back to the party. We're not the ones who got fat after high school.
I hope your babies look like monkeys.
Christy Christensen Masters is the worst person to run into at the high school reunion.
We glossed over. There's so many funny bits and gags in this movie.
There's so many lines.
Yeah, but like I'm just thinking about how she went on stage to receive her award without her shirt.
Yeah, in her own dream. The watching the movie for the first time, you don't really pick up on the fact that it's a dream sequence because like the movie's so silly already.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like it starts to grumble when it's the awards are being given out. Who gets awards at the high school
the
reunion?
most successful awards.
And the cars are in the building. It's
Yeah.
so stupid. But I think my favorite line in the entire movie happens right at the beginning of this sequence, like the real one, where Romy's in there by herself. And she is trying to talk to the group. She pulls out like a satellite phone because it's the 90s. And she's like, if anyone needs to make a call, I have a phone.
The voice she uses in the movie is hilarious.
Yeah, it's
so
fantastic.
dumb.
It's so funny.
I have a phone.
I cut my toe earlier and my shoe is filling up with blood. Who had sex first? Oh, big wow with your cousin Barry. I wouldn't brag about it.
Yeah, and also when they were in the gym in their high heels, that shit was funny too.
Throwing kicks at the punching bag.
Yeah.
When they're there's a scene when they're at spin class too, and they're riding the Peloton bikes, and like they have to do like the up and down motion. Hey Michele, what does this motion make you think of? Oh, I know, this woman's sick.
Telling Christy Christensen Masters that they don't give a flying fuck what she thinks, the two of them, pariahs only moments ago, seem to gain the favor of the room. And with one final attempt to skewer their flashy outfits, Christy is silenced by a member of her old crew. Stepping out of the crowd, Lisa Luder, now an employee at Vogue, says once again that their outfits are unique and awesome, basically telling Christy to shut her face and die for once. Even Christy's gang loses respect for her. Her perceived high school power dissipates before her very eyes, and everyone seems to like Romy and Michele.
It is at that moment, paired with a confession from Heather Mooney, that Romy and Michele learn that they were cool all along. Even though they got shit on by Christy, then inadvertently shit on Heather, who shit on Toby Walters. It's the high school experience. We've come full circle, and just when things couldn't get any more exciting, Toby Walters announces that Sandy Frink just arrived in his private helicopter.
Yeah, Who was it? Is it Heather that explained the social hierarchy of high school? That
Yeah, because Heather thought they were cool.
That how like the shit runs downhill because like because they were given shit by the popular girls, and Heather felt like she was given shit by Romy and Michele because they were always having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then Heather Mooney was like, "Oh, I never was mean to anybody," and then
Toby.
really she was mean. Fuck off, Toby.
Toby, you were actually really mean to me. I was mean to you in high school. Yeah, I'll sign your stupid fucking yearbook.
Yeah, I'll sign your stupid fucking book. That was funny. She's a funny character, too. Entering the building, the real Sandy Frink, free of plastic surgery and the inventor of a special rubber and shoes, makes a beeline for Michele, declaring his love for her and asking her to dance. Michele agrees, but only if Romy can join them. What follows is the greatest dance sequence of all time. Set to Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time, it's indescribably amazing and hilarious, and all eyes must bear witness to its glory.
It really is fantastic. It's so good.
It is. You know, they had to spend $250,000 to license Time After Time for this movie.
Why?
It was like a great deal of the budget.
Was it like a newer song?
I don't know.
Or that's really weird because like every movie has that song.
It was a huge portion of the budget. For
Napoleon Dynamite has that song.
Yeah, no kidding. How did Napoleon Dynamite get?
I feel like that plays like in TV shows all the time.
When was Napoleon Dynamite made?
2000s, like 10 years later, probably.
Okay, but I don't know. But I read that and I thought that was insane.
Well, I think that is nuts. But what I think is really funny about this whole thing, hold on. No, 2004 for Napoleon Dynamite. What I think is crazy about this whole thing is that the dream sequence is only slightly different from the real thing. And then arguably weirder shit happens in the actual reunion.
Yeah, with him coming in his helicopter.
And the dance.
Yeah, the 3-person dance scene.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
The wrongs of high school have been righted, and climbing aboard Sandy Frink's helicopter, Romy and Michele can say goodbye to the past once and for all. However, there is just one more loose end to tie up. Just before they fly away, Romy is approached by Billy Christensen, who just finished throwing up in a nearby bush. Telling her about how hot she is, he solicits sex from Romy, saying that his wife doesn't have to know about it. So, Romy, remembering what he did at the prom all those years ago, tells him to get a room, and she'll be up in 5 minutes. Billy goes, and Romy never sees him again.
A few months later on Rodeo Drive, Romy and Michele are the proud owners of a clothing store named Romy and Michele's. They have been gifted a loan by Sandy Frink, and they still need to work for 2 years before they can pay him back. So until then, let's fold scarves.
The end.
Great movie.
Fantastic film. One of the best movies probably ever made.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of...
Maybe.
It's a fun watch.
What a great watch.
A great time.
Couple of fun. One thing I learned about. So I wasn't alive when this movie came out, so I didn't know
Me neither.
the drama of Hollywood. But Mira Sorvini, the actor who plays Romy, was dating Quentin Tarantino at the time, and she dated him for like 3 years.
Wow. Wait, did she have her bare feet in this movie at any point in time?
I'm sure.
I know that she wore a lot of high heels. She wore a lot of heels.
Anyways, but why I was bringing that up is because in multiple scenes in the movie, you could see like there was a scene where they had Big Kahuna brand hamburgers wrappers on like when they were on their food binge, and then there was another scene when they were smoking. I think they're called Big Red cigarettes, or I don't know. But anyways, those are like Tarantino brand things, like in Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, all his movies.
That's what they do.
Those are the brands of burgers they eat and the brands of cigarettes that the characters smoke. That's like connects their universe. So
That's
Romy
really funny.
and Michele are in the same universe as Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, all the Tarantino movies.
I think
it's
that's
in
a
the
great
Tarantino
addition.
verse.
Yeah. I feel like even if it was in jest them doing that, I think
What is comedy is humor not in this universe. It's a universe of dark, gritty anger and.
Well, even if it was just like a hee, she's dating him, let's do that. Even if it was just a jest, that still makes it canon in the universe, which means as Mr. Pink is being shot by police, Romy and Michele are dancing at the nightclub outside.
Yes.
It's the same place.
Is Reservoir Dogs in L.A.?
I think Yes, because I don't know if Quentin Tarantino is from L.A., but he's like everything I feel like is set in L.A. I'm pretty sure that
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction is what is that? That's not in L.A.
Isn't that's? Is it not?
I thought it was. Let's see. Well, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was Avi.
Once upon a time in Hollywood.
What is that movie called?
Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
I don't know why I thought it wasn't set in L.A., but it might be.
Pulp Fiction set in Los Angeles, California. That's a good one.
Yeah.
There's gimp sex.
What was your other point?
Yeah, so I didn't know that about the Tarantino dating until you've brought this to my attention. But there's also somebody in Hollywood that was interested in Mira Sorvino, actress of Romy. And I don't want to discount her as a performer. Like, when I was watching this movie, I was like, where has this woman gone? Because I thought that she was, like, at least Lisa Kudrow level funny in this movie. Like, she could hang. She was great. And like after this movie, I was like, I've never seen her in anything again. And after some research, I found out that Mira Sorvino was actually blacklisted from Hollywood by Harvey Weinstein. Like she was one of the people that he was like trying to Weinstein
dick.
On. Yeah. And when she like wouldn't do it, he was like, all right, well then you're out of here. And now that he got fucked upon by society, rightfully, Mira Sorvino is back. They just had a 25-year reunion for
Romy and Michele.
Mm-hmm. And like they announced some award together, and they were on like talk shows. And stuff.
I saw that. I saw a picture of them as Romy and Michele at the SAG Awards.
Mm-hmm. And they're both open to the idea of a sequel. So we've written one for them.
But before we talk about the sequel, we've done something a little bit different for this episode.
A little odd, a little out there.
Since this is our mom's favorite movie, and she hates any sort of attention, she doesn't even like pictures of herself taken, we called her and recorded the phone call and talked about Romy and Michele, and with a complete violation of trust.
She has no idea that this is happening.
She has no idea that this is happening.
Going over the airways.
But we have recorded her. We're going to play the recording. It's edited because since she didn't know we were supposed to stay on topic for Romy and Michele, we had to keep reeling her back in.
Mm-hmm.
But it
jumps around.
So it jumps around a little bit. But we're going to play the recording of her talking about why she likes the movie. We ask her a few questions about the movie.
So phoning in from prison like a rapper. This is our mother, Lisa Brower.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. I was in the hollow.
Hi, Mama.
Hey, baby.
So, Mom, we're going to do Romy and Michelle's high school reunion this week.
Yes, I heard.
What is it that you love so much about that movie?
I know. I think it's like everybody's high school experiences that you think you were nobody and everyone else was better, and you find out that none of them were. You know.
None of them were what?
You figured out that no one was better than you in high school.
None of them were really that secure with themselves. They all had their insecurities, and they hid it by being like either, hiding out or being mean, or they all had their way of dealing with their own insecurities. And
which one were you? Were you hiding out or being mean?
I wasn't being mean.
She was Romy and Michele.
I just tried to have fun.
So you were Romy and Michele?
I always had fun with my friends, but I'm sure that I was insecure around other people, but I just didn't bother with them because they wouldn't have bothered with me,
Mm. Do you see yourself more as a Romy or more as a Michele?
I don't know. Maybe more Romy.
You said maybe more Romy?
Maybe.
Good answer.
I don't know.
Do you think that all girls in their lives have a Billy Christensen and a Sandy Frank?
Probably.
That's funny. And no matter which one you end up with, you're still a winner.
Yeah. To yourself.
Well, yeah.
You actually are more of a winner if you end up with the Sandy Freak.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're a winner if you end up with the Billy Christensen because that's the person you wanted. And you're a winner if you end up with, was it Sandy Frank?
Yeah.
Because he invented rubber and is a millionaire.
Yeah.
The rubber soles on shoes.
Yeah. I mean, like on condoms.
What would you rate this movie out of 5 stars?
5 stars, probably.
You'd give it 5 stars out of 5 stars?
Yes.
Since it came out in 1996 or 1997, how many times do you think you've watched the movie?
I don't know. We watched it a bunch ourselves.
Being that it's the only movie that you ever can remember, how many times do you remember watching it?
I don't know. Probably 10.
You've watched it more than 10 times.
I don't know
Would
if
you say
I
that
ever
you
have it.
would you say that you watch it once a year?
Probably. Not since then. I don't think I found it immediately when it came out.
Yeah, it was more of a cult classic. It's actually considered
Kind of
like
like
a
a flop.
cult classic now.
Yeah. I would say I've watched it at least once a year since I discovered it. I don't know if it was in 97 or not.
So we have a minimum of 85 times that you've seen this movie. Being that this is the only movie that you ever remember, what makes this so memorable?
It just makes me laugh. I don't know. It's silly. It makes you laugh but it also there's people in like what makes people watch a movie is that they relate to things, and you can relate to all those people too. You can. I mean, you
I see
can
myself
relate.
as
There's somebody in your high school. There's somebody who was the Romy, the Michele, the Mean Girls, the Studley guy that was kind of stupid. Joe.
I was just gonna say Joe.
I was the sexy cowboy. That
With
was
the
me.
lisp? Or no, with the stutter?
Yeah.
You know.
Rhett's a
You're the one who
full-on
has
Heather
some-
Mooney.
So me and you make out with each other at the reunion?
Yeah. We only got a few
Or
more
maybe
years
Rat
to
is
go.
the Sandy Frank.
What?
Maybe Rat is the Sandy Frank.
So then Wyatt was in love with me in high school? No,
No.
never mind.
Nope.
That was only if
He
I'm
is
still
the
Heather Mooney.
cowboy. He's a sexy cowboy who throws the cigarette at her.
Who flicks the cigarettes at her, that's right.
So I'm not a human or anything. Such as that.
Such as that.
Such as that.
Such as that. I don't know. What do you think about it? I mean, I think that everyone can relate to it. That's why it's a cult classic. Because even people who would normally think it was stupid would watch it and can identify at least some of those characters as people they knew, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a totally underappreciated gem of a comedy, especially considering, like, I don't know, I can't really think of another, at least in the time period, like, female buddy comedy.
Yeah.
And that was like
Even now, think of a female buddy comedy.
I can only think of female action movies.
I know, I was thinking of The Heat.
Yeah, most of them star Melissa McCarthy. And or Sandra Bullock together. Or separate.
Yeah, it has to have a gun. Or it can't be a
But
female
I mean,
buddy
there's a lot
comedy.
That's true.
there's a lot of movies where it's about boys growing up together and like the ones you guys love with, all the guys and after school and being in love with someone and
That
weird
could
party
describe
stuff.
any movie we like.
All the guys being in
Because
love with
there's a lot
someone.
of them like that, but there's not very many ones about girls that make it big at all.
No.
True.
There are underlying reasons, I think, why this one failed as well.
And they
Some
go
darkness.
back and talk about Mary and Rhoda because that was probably the last two girl friend situations. I mean, the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Rhoda was like her best friend.
This movie got a lot of reviews about how it's like, oh, it's like it got like 4 stars. So everyone gave it 4 stars because they're like, oh, it's funny, but it's they like tried to like attack like the plot and say that it was predictable.
So
It's like, exactly. So like, so what?
Yeah.
And like
how?
everybody has to be so fucking smart. Like, oh, predictable. And like, how was it even predictable? How would you have guessed that from the opening scene that what was going to happen?
Yeah, you wouldn't have. You would have maybe predicted when they went there that somebody that was on the low rung of the ladder was successful. You would predict that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know that you would have predicted all of that.
I don't know how you could
Sandy
predict
Frank-
the 3-person dance number, or that they would end up with their own fashion store on Rodeo Drive.
That was the
Rodeo
greatest
Drive,
scene.
yeah.
That might be the greatest dance scene in movie history
Yeah.
with the two of
Yeah.
them.
with Sandy Frank.
Yeah.
Told
That
you those
dance
dances would
scene
pay
and the
off.
dance scene in the movie Wall-E. Best dance scenes in any movie ever.
I can get behind that. It's a tie for first. What was it? Oh, yeah. I feel like there were things that people maybe wanted to happen. Like, oh, she's going to go back to high school and she's not going to sleep with Billy Christensen. But other than that, like, how do you predict the glue storyline? We invented Post-its.
Do you have any businesswoman specials? That's a great line.
If anyone needs to make a call, I have a phone.
Yeah. Or how about when we're not the ones who got fat.
I hope all your babies look like monkeys.
I have to find it so I can watch it again. What movie is it? What station is it playing on?
We watched it on Amazon Prime.
Do you think that Romy and Michele would have been good as a sitcom?
No, they would have ruined it as a sitcom.
That
I
was
agree.
the initial plan.
The initial.
The initial.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, the writer created the whole thing because she like overheard these two girls talking in a bathroom in a nightclub. And I guess like would see them periodically clubbing in Los Angeles, like the same two girls. So she wrote it, and it was like a
She
play,
was
right?
like a groundling, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a groundling with Lisa Kudrow, and she made like this play. That play, I guess, was the first professional thing Lisa Kudrow ever did too. So her first character ever was Michelle.
Oh yeah.
And
Did Romy and Michele come out after the show Friends come out?
yeah, that's why they think the movie did. The lady who wrote it, I can't remember her name, Robin something.
Mm-hmm.
She said that without Friends, she doesn't think Romy and Michele would have been successful. Even because it wasn't even that like successful on release, but it became very successful, and she thinks it's because Lisa Kudrow was so popular from Friends.
Friends.
I don't know about that.
You don't know about what? Friends is like the most popular show ever.
Unfortunately.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure that a lot of people thought that. I never liked Friends, so
Neither did I.
I'm not really sure that isn't why I watched it.
I don't like Friends either. I think
I
that How
wasn't
I
sp-
Met Your Mother should have been called Friends, and Friends should have never existed.
I wasn't saying that Friends was the reason you watched it, but the lady who
I'm just
created
saying.
Romy and Michele said that a lot of people watched it. She thinks because of Friends.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Maybe.
I watched it. Whenever I watched it, I thought it was funny. I don't know what other people thought was funny about it.
Maybe, probably not though. I
Mom
hate
dislikes Friends so much that she's like doesn't even want to associate it with Romy and Michelle's high
Don't even
school
talk
reunion.
about it.
I just know I never really cared about Friends, so it didn't really matter to me that they say that. So, but that's all right.
Okay.
Bye, Mom. Love you.
Love you too. Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Got her.
Got her. Romy and Michele 2. F is for fashion.
Hit it, Cyndi Lauper.
Dun, 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 dun. Ba-da-bim, bim, 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 bim. Wedged in the heart of Rodeo Drive, Romy and Michele's fashion boutique has taken the world by storm. With expertly crafted aesthetics, chic tops, snazzy bottoms, and perfectly folded scarves, the business is one of the most sought-after spots in the entire city. The owners and namesakes of the business, Romy and Michele, are living the dreams that they didn't even know that they had.
It has been 2 years since their 10-year high school reunion, and the duo have just finished paying off Sandy Frink for helping them start up the business. So, from here on out, the girls are making money, and this has been the source of a lot of issues between the two of them. Obviously, they share a bank account, and the duo have been butting heads on where that money should be going.
It should go without saying that a substantial amount of cash goes towards a designated fun fund that pays for nightly club adventures and anything else they choose to buy on a whim. However, Michele is convinced that the pair need to consider buying a bunker for the impending doom associated with Y2K and the uprising of new high-tech computers. Romy, a proud owner of a cell phone, rejects the Y2K fears and thinks that instead the two of them should buy a private jet that can take them all over the world. More money, more problems indeed.
Sandy Frink, an international businessman, is still in love with Michele, but the two have been taking things immensely slow. Not only is Sandy constantly out of the country due to business-related business, but Michele is hard to get one-on-one due to her inappropriately close relationship with Romy. The two of them have put up an impenetrable barrier around one another, in which even men they want to date are incapable of breaching, creating an endless cycle of heartache and confusion around every corner.
But even though Sandy isn't always in the picture, Romy and Michele are never lonely. They have just as much fun as they ever have, and the world is in the palms of their heavily perfumed hands.
All seems great in the Hollywood life of Romy and Michele, and as if things couldn't get any better, the pair receive a letter inviting them to a banquet involving the 10 greatest up-and-coming fashion boutiques in the world. Romy and Michele rank number 8 on the list.
Although Romy thinks they deserve higher, the two of them are ecstatic. This is quite possibly the coolest thing that has ever happened to them. And not for nothing, but the last time they received an invitation, things worked out perfectly for them. So what could go wrong?
Romy and Michele, per the invitation, are each allowed to bring a +1. Michele has a built-in date in the form of Sandy Frink. However, Romy has no love interest. She feels left out as she watches Michele invite Sandy, and there is a moment of sadness as her friend Michele shares a moment of happiness with someone else. But now is not the time to be bummed. After going on a few failed dates all in one day, Romy is unable to find a romantic companion, so, perhaps against her better judgment, she invites an old friend.
Perpetually grumpy, effortlessly eloquent, and chain-smoking like no other, Heather Mooney reluctantly accepts the invitation from Romy. One of the only other people to move to Los Angeles from their hometown in Arizona, Heather has become a very active member of their lives. Being the only person to see Romy and Michele as cool from the very start, she has been given a very special place in their hearts in spite of her ceaseless bad attitude.
Saying that the whole thing sounds creepy and erotic in a culty way, Heather has half a mind to tell them to fuck off. But, for whatever reason, she likes Romy and Michele, and, seeing that this is important to them, she finishes her cigarette and squeezes into the backseat of Sandy's chrome 1992 Ferrari Testarossa. And the characters make their way into the forests of Northern California.
Along the road, Sandy and Michele are very flirtatious, whispering and laughing in the front of the car. Romy asks what it is they're laughing about, to which Michele replies, it's an inside joke, and that she wouldn't understand. After being told what an inside joke is, Romy is very hurt, once again feeling as if she is on the periphery. Heather is less than joyous herself. However, it has nothing to do with loneliness, but more so disgust. She still can't believe that she was ever interested in Sandy Frink.
Finally, after a few horribly uncomfortable hours, the four of them pull into the driveway of a massive lodge. With a rustic aesthetic, yet somehow embodying the very essence of beauty, the massive estate is made from the logs of redwood trees. With a perfectly manicured lawn, a beautiful fountain, and a full staff of white-gloved-wearing butlers, nobody would ever believe that something so sophisticated could be found in the ambiguous forests of California.
With the valet taking the keys of Sandy's very expensive car, the four of them enter the Grand Manor, walking down the marble corridor, admiring the busts on the pedestals lining the walkway. Romy and Michele laugh at the small penises on the Greek statues until they are interrupted by an unfamiliar face. Wearing a pink sweatsuit, the brunette is quite attractive in a lazy, trashy sort of way. The name is Juicy Couture. Abrasive, but with a passive-aggressive demeanor, Juicy is able to trick Romy and Michele into taking an insult as a compliment. It isn't until she's walking away that Heather points out that she's actually a total asshole with her own name, Juicy, written across the ass of her pants.
As they make their way into the dining room, in which the reception is to be held, the butlers take their bags and begin delivering them to their bedrooms. Romy, Michele, Sandy, and Heather enter the room to see a collage of perfect makeup and amazing clothes. There are a bunch of faces that they've seen from magazines and news headlines. Donna Karan, Tommy Hilfiger, Joe Boxer, the founder of LEI Jeans, and a few other red shirt characters that don't really matter. Feeling a bit out of place, perhaps even experiencing a touch of imposter syndrome. However, this soon fades away for Romy when she locks eyes with the final business owner that has been invited to the conference. Wearing a white sweater and possessing a head of blonde curls, Romy shares a moment with a man she finds incredibly handsome. After a brief exchange, we learn that this is an entrepreneur by the name of Michael Kors, and he seems to have the hots for Romy.
The guests are ushered to sit at the manor's large dining table, with extravagant meals being served for them to feast upon. The chair at the head of the table is vacant, with all of the business owners to wonder who gathered them here and what is going on. Finally, after the large melody of a grandfather clock marks the shift of the hour, a woman in a black dress appears at the top of the stairs. Gliding down, the woman takes her seat at the table, giving a very warm smile to each and every member of the group. She is much older than those around her, with a grandmotherly energy that kind of grosses out Romy and Michele.
Introductions are in order, and the woman at the head of the table explains the reason for their being here. Her name is Edie Dassler, and her family has been involved with the fashion industry for many years. However, she and her family have identified the importance of entrepreneurs and grassroots enterprises that can change the world. And although she has held this event for many, many years, this gathering is more special than the rest. Although she invited the top 10 up-and-comers, by the end of the weekend, Edie has plans to find one sole champion, for due to her immense age, Edie is dying. With hopes to find a benefactor, the mogul has decided that whosoever proves themselves as the greatest, most worthy fashionista in the room will inherit the Dassler estate, which includes $750 million, this very manor, as well as all the perks of a generationally proven enterprise.
Instantly, the atmosphere in the room becomes far more tense. The stakes have risen, and even though these business owners already viewed one another in one way or another as their competitors, there's now so much more on the line. Fire burns in the eyes of Tommy Hilfiger, Juicy foams at the mouth. Edie, who must retire for her chambers for rest, lets the guests know that they all are to meet in the front yard at 7 a.m. sharp the next morning.
Although their bodies and circadian rhythms are programmed to dance far into the night and wake close to noon, Romy and Michele are able to wake up at 6 a.m., giving them just enough time to pick out the perfect outfits and make their way to the front lawn. They look great, they feel prepared, but as soon as the sun rises over the hill, light shines upon the perhaps even better outfits of those they will be competing against. Everyone is dressed to the nine, nobody even looking those next to them in the eye. It seems like they're all robots. The only one with any sort of humanity is Michael Kors, who casually approaches Romy and Michele, doing his best to charm Romy. Romy is beyond nervous around him, and can only sputter out awkward sentence fragments, making the whole situation even more awkward. Finally, saved by the bell, Edie can be seen exiting the manor and meeting her pupils. This commences the competition, which shall occur from sunup to sundown, involving several events, each one proving the worth of all the contestants. A lot of them are boring, including seamstress work, shoe shining, and velour smoothing. However, Romy and Michele are by far the greatest in the scarf folding event.
After a long day of competing, the contestants make their way to their respective rooms for the night. Edie shall announce the winner the following evening, giving the business owners time to enjoy their environment before all but one of them are sent back to their ordinary lives. Before Romy and Michele can plan something to do, however, they are interrupted by Michael Kors. Asking Romy if she would join him for dinner this evening, she, through shallow, flustered breaths, awkwardly agrees. Michele, a little hurt, decides to allow Romy to have her date, and she will have a fun night with Sandy and Heather.
The night is cloudless and full of stars. Fireflies dance lackadaisical through the summer air, and the croak of frogs serenades Romy with a melody as she walks beside Michael Kors. She is not entirely sure what it is about Michael, but whenever he is around, she completely melts. It's even worse than how she behaved with Billy Christensen. Leading her to a pond, Michael has set up a wonderfully romantic picnic for the two of them, and Romy feels as if she is dreaming, but this time it's totally real.
Meanwhile, back in the manor, Michele attempts to speak with a few of the fashion folk, but they give her the cold, bony shoulder. So she decides to look for Sandy. They separated in the morning when Michele went to her competition, and she has been unable to locate him for the rest of the day. So, gathering Heather, the two of them begin to walk the shadowy corridors of the Dassler mansion. Quartz stairs, crystal chandeliers, the place is comically fancy. Finally, Heather and Michele come to the end of a particularly strange hallway. It seems like it should lead somewhere, but instead it just takes them to a large empty wall.
They have walked aimlessly around the entire house, and Sandy is nowhere to be found. Michele, bummed, stomps her foot. Her boyfriend is missing, her friend is with someone else, and none of the fashion people like her or her outfits at all. This whole weekend has been a total disaster, and as she leans against the wall, she declares that it couldn't possibly get any worse. But that is not exactly true.
Collapsing to the floor, Michele looks to the secret doorway in the wall that she just fell through. Heather, in shock, follows Michele inside. The room is entirely dark, and the only thing illuminating anything at all is the glow of Heather's cigarette. The room has a weird smell and is very cluttered with a bunch of old stuff. Michele assumes it must be storage, but who would keep gold hidden away?
Michele rubs dust off of a large brick of gold as she and Heather examine it. However, as Heather moves her head upwards, the cigarette in her mouth reveals that this is no ordinary gold. A large ominous symbol is engraved in the brick, and Michele tosses it to the ground. "This gold's no good," she says. "Someone scratched a stick man into it."
Heather grabs Michele by the hand, taking a few steps back. "That's not a stick man. That's a swastika. It's Nazi gold." Dramatic music plays as Michele and Heather look upon countless artifacts of Nazi memorabilia, hats, guns, and most damning of all, a picture of Adolf Hitler wearing a pair of Dassler running shoes at the 1936 Olympics. Oh shit.
Michele and Heather rush down the corridor back to the lobby and eventually out of the house. As they make their way down the stairs at the foyer, however, they run into Romy and Michael Kors. Heather and Michele, breathless, tell Romy that they have to go, to which Romy replies that they can't go because she was just about to go to Michael's room. "You don't understand," they say through wheezes. Edie is a what? Before Michele and Heather can announce the truth, pandemonium unfolds. "Get them," cries Edie, who stands at the top of the stairs wearing a Nazi nightgown.
Seemingly in unison, the dozens of butlers remove their white gloves, revealing identical swastika tattoos on their hands. Pulling concealed Mausers from their jacket pockets, the butlers open fire on the fashionistas. Before the bullet can strike Michele, however, Juicy casually strolls into the foyer. "Has anyone seen my dead?" With bullet after bullet ripping into Juicy, Heather, Michele, Michael, and Romy let out a horrified scream. Thinking fast, Michele grabs a pile of folded scarves on a nearby table and throws them into the air.
The mirage distracts the gunmen long enough for the four of them to run away. However, at a fork in the road, without even realizing it, the group has split up, with Michael and Romy going down one hallway and Michele and Heather going down another. A high alert lockdown has been put in place, and the hunt is on for any and all fashionistas. Edie, totally busted for being a Nazi, tells her goons to exterminate every single one of them, spoken like a true Nazi.
Gunfire rings out in the night as fashionista after fashionista is shot and killed. However, not all of them can be accounted for. Other than Romy, Michele, and Michael Kors, they have also been unable to locate Tommy Hilfiger, whose room was found empty, other than 2 dead butlers. Their gloves were still on, and after a brief analysis, it was inferred that their deaths occurred before the lockdown. Hilfiger must have killed them for fun.
Edie, filled with rage, wants nothing more than to capture Romy and Michele. They are priority number 1, and it just so happens that they have an ace in the hole. Bound to a chair and with duct tape over his mouth, Sandy Frink writhes attempting to escape. His muffled screams are covered by the maniacal laugh of Edie Dassler.
Running as fast as she could for as long as she could, Romy didn't even realize that the sound of 8 feet on marble tile quickly turned into 4 feet on gravel. Making their way out of the house and down the driveway, Romy and Michael make it to the large gilded gate encrusted with the Dassler D. Michael, without even breaking stride, does his best to open the gate, but it won't budge. Finally, after a stroke of luck, it swings open, the road to freedom just a few steps ahead.
Michael steps outside, holding his hand out and asking Romy to go with him. But it isn't right. Even though Michele might be leaving her behind and creating a new life with Sandy, Romy can't do the same thing. This is not her path. Romy and Michele stick together no matter what, and any man who wants one has to put up with the other. So, saying goodbye to the easy getaway, Romy makes her way back towards the house, and, to his own surprise, so does Michael Kors.
Heather and Michele have run into a library. Looking as though it were a way out, the two of them, backed into a corner by roving Nazis, snuck into the Chamber of Literature only to be surrounded by more guards. Their only hope is to stay quiet in the library. Who knew that this would be the kind of thing librarians are training us for?
Heather, the capable member of the duo, sees a window on the other end of the library. And even though they're on the second story, the large stained glass window could serve as a wonderful front door. All they had to do was sneak through the menagerie, around the bookshelves, up the ladder, and over the scented candles, all while avoiding the detection of 2 patrolling Nazis. And given that the Nazis aren't looking too hard in the library for fashionistas, it should be an easy task.
However, Michele, always dressed fantastically, is a little less than silent as she and Heather make their way towards the window. Wearing large platform shoes, even the quietest steps produce a heavy clunk, clunk. Heather attempts to quiet her down, even telling her to take off the shoes. Michele refuses, saying that the shoes were $4,000 and that she'd rather die than get Nazi on her bare feet. Clunk, clunk, clunk.
Somehow, despite it all, it seems that they're going to get away with it unnoticed. Through the menagerie, around the bookshelves, up the ladder, but before they can make it over the scented candles, a perceptive Nazi spots a colorful outfit in the reflection of a nearby mirror. Drawing their guns, the two Nazis approach Michele and Heather, who have their backs to the stained glass window. One of the Nazis moves to grab a walkie-talkie, planning to report that he found one of the boss's prizes. But before his finger can hit the PTT button, the window is shattered.
Swinging from a rope made entirely of scarves, Romy and Michael Kors smash into the library. Holding a Michael Kors purse filled with rocks, Michael Kors knocks the gun out of one of the Nazis' hands, bringing the bag down on the top of his skull and cracking it open like an egg. Romy, who has hand-sharpened her 6-inch heels, Spartan kicks the Nazi in the thigh, getting her foot caught in his flesh. They both fall to the ground as Romy attempts to pull her foot free. The Nazi screams in agony. Michele, attempting to help, grabs the Michael Kors bag and begins beating the Nazi, but she aims for non-lethal areas, cracking his shoulders and knees. The Nazi screams louder until Romy pulls her leg free, causing an eruption of Nazi blood to fire onto both Romy and Michele. After a moment of silence, they both scream in disgust. Michele continues striking the man with the bag as Romy kicks him repeatedly, spearing several parts of his mangled body with her heel.
Finally, the carnage is interrupted by a loud intercom system that broadcasts throughout the house. The once warm and maternal voice of Edie has since transformed into one of pure evil. Making an announcement directly to Romy and Michele, the matriarch of the Dasslers declares that the duo surrender to her. If they refuse, their friend, Sandy Frink, will be executed. The group panics. What a predicament. Heather obviously thinks they should leave him behind and get out of the Nazi den, but Sandy Frink is the only person that has ever truly loved Michele. And given that he put them into business and made their lives into what it is today, it can be argued that they owe him.
But Romy and Michele aren't going to simply roll over and surrender. They'll face off against Edie Dassler, and they're going to save Sandy and the fashion world in the process. The plan is simple. Romy and Michele will feign giving up, turning themselves into the Nazis. Heather and Michael will stay on the periphery, watching carefully and waiting for the code word, Frosted Tips. Once they are signaled, they will cause a diversion, and arming themselves with weapons from the cache of old Nazi memorabilia, they will begin the attack as Romy and Michele rescue Sandy. It's a good plan.
So, walking into the foyer, with their hands up, Romy and Michele allow themselves to be placed into custody by the butlers. With Mausers stuck into their ribs and swastika hands violently leading them to Edie's chambers, the two of them make ridiculous jokes, cracking one another up. Even in the face of death, Romy and Michele are having fun with each other, and it becomes even more clear just how much they love and need each other. But this moment of happiness is soon snuffed out by the vile scowl of Edie Dassler.
Holding a Mauser of her own, which has been bedazzled and decorated, Edie places the barrel of her gun against the back of Sandy's head. It's time for an evil monologue, of course. Edie explains that her family were humble cobblers in the 1930s who just so happened to draw the attention of a very particular political party. Seeing the talent of her father, the Nazis commissioned him to design their outfits. Looking to stand out and appear imposing, her father was able to capture the exact look they were going for, and in some cases even make it look kinda cool in a totally objective, non-historical context. With the success of her father found with the Nazis, the Dasslers soon realized the philosophy that the party preached and soon became outward supporters and believers. And after the war, the Nazi party may not have remained, but the Dasslers did.
Edie, taking up the dream of her father, has spent generations subtly planting seeds of fascism everywhere she goes. Her ad campaigns, her color schemes, even the celebrities she endorses, have all been in an effort to resurrect the Nazi party. It is truly a shame, she explains, because had the festivities not been so severely interrupted, Edie would have announced Romy and Michele as the winners of the competition, and they would have inherited the Dassler estate. Had she been given more time, like her father was given, she could have explained everything in a way that made sense, but now it's all wrecked.
Romy says in the heat of the moment that they can still take over the business, to which Michele elbows her in the side, telling her that they can't be Nazis. Yeah, you're right, Romy says, shaking her head. Edie cackles, telling them that it's too late for them. Romy and Michele say that they will leave this place and never tell a soul, so long as Edie releases Sandy. But Edie was never going to let Sandy go. In fact, they captured him long before Michele uncovered all the Nazi stuff. The butlers discovered a Torah in Sandy's bag, and one thing led to another.
Heather and Michael, with a duffel bag full of guns and German stick grenades, sit in the vents watching this play out from above. Michael says that they should attack now, but Heather rejects it. They haven't given the signal, dumbass. But suddenly, they smell smoke.
Even Romy, Michele, and Edie become distracted as the window overlooking the rest of the house becomes aglow with an ominous orange blaze. Peeking out the window, they see the entire house is on fire. But how? But who? Suddenly, the intercom system buzzes on from an unknown location in the house. 1, 2, Tommy's coming for you.
The butlers all arm themselves, and Edie commands them to take Romy and Michele hostage, but before the swastika hands can seize them, Romy shouts, "Frosted tips." The vent swings open and Michael and Heather hang upside down, opening fire on the Nazis. Romy and Michele break free from their bondage and duck for cover. As the gunfire is traded back and forth, it seems as though that Heather and Michael are being overrun. Thankfully, a man in a blood-stained sweater bursts through the door wielding a kitchen knife. Tommy Hilfiger cackles as he begins hacking away at the Nazis and biting at their flesh. Romy and Michele untie Sandy, capitalizing on the distraction created by the bloodthirsty Hilfiger.
Crawling towards the door, the 5 heroes break the threshold with Heather, Michael, and Sandy arming the stick grenades in the duffel bag. But just as Romy is exiting the building, her ankle is grabbed by the bony, arthritis-riddled talon of Edie Dassler. The grenades have been armed. They will go off in only a few seconds. They have to run. Michele, rushing to help Romy, grabs the duffel bag full of explosives and charges forth, fearless, into the room. Grabbing Romy by the hand, she pulls her friend out of the grasp of the Nazi and smashes her on the head with the bag of grenades, slamming the door as the two make their grand escape. Lifting Romy off the ground, Michele, Heather, Michael, and Sandy all jump off the balcony into the foyer. Edie lets out one final scream as the ticks within the duffel bag fall silent.
Flames lick the backs of the heroes as the bombs go off behind them, landing hard on the marble floor. They only have a few moments before the entire house is engulfed in flames. Bursting through the door, they crawl across the perfectly manicured grass until they all lay on their backs by the pond. The Dassler estate collapses in on itself as the charred embers dance like fireflies across the night sky. It is a surprisingly romantic aesthetic. Or is it a bromance?
Lady bromance. Romy and Michele are unconcerned with the men that have found themselves in their company. Romy, with tears in her eyes, hugs her friend. Michele didn't leave her behind. The very thing that Romy has been afraid of all along. And it's clear then and there that she never will. As the wails of fire engines can be heard coming up the hills of Northern California, the 5 heroes stand, looking at the blazing inferno they just escaped from. Due to the proximity of the fire, the backs of their clothes have been completely scorched from their bodies, leaving 5 butts visible to the firefighters that arrive on scene, because butts are funny.
The fire burned up every piece of the Dassler memory, and unfortunately for society, they will never know the truth behind their favorite brand. But Romy and Michele will, and even though they didn't inherit the Nazi money, Romy and Michele have come out of this adventure stronger than ever. The Dassler industry shut down, and on account of all the business owners that died on the hands of Edie and her goons, when Romy and Michele returned to Rodeo Drive, their store is more popular than ever. A sweater of blue, white, and red was found partially burned at the scene of the crime. However, no body was recovered. Some say that the Hilfiger is still running amok in the dense forests of North America, terrorizing the weak and defenseless and drinking the blood of the local livestock. But those are just urban legends. We hope.
The end. Little PSA at the end of this one. Although there are celebrity references in this is a work of fiction. And it's all fake. But if you have some spare time, maybe Google a few of the names that you're not familiar with. It might enlighten more of the story.
Maybe Google
later on
the brand Adidas.
Yeah, just throwing that out there. Brands like Nike or Adidas. Totally random thoughts about that.
Think about it. Interior, Romy and Michele's day. Romy and Michele stand behind the counter in the lobby of their store.
Hello, America. I'm Romy White.
There is a pause as Michele stares into the camera. Romy turns to Michele.
It's your line.
Michele turns to Romy, and then wide-eyed back to the camera. And I'm Michele. Ha!
Are you tired of not being able to find an outfit?
Do you hate the way you look in the mirror, and it seems like no matter what you do, you're like stuck in there?
Well, look no further than Romy and Michele's.
A series of shots shows the outside of the store, as well as various angles of clothing racks within.
Whether you're in the office, on the go, or fighting threats of international terror, our talented staff,
which consists of me and Romy,
are trained to help you look your best. So come on down to Rodeo Drive and visit.
Romy and Michele look to each other and both count in unison under their breaths. 2, 3.
Romy and Michele's.
The commercial cuts out with Romy and Michele standing back to back. Interior house night. A young boy can be seen in the reflection of his television set. The boy, around 8 to 10 years old, sits on the couch by himself. He grabs the remote and attempts to turn the TV back on, but nothing works. As he stands making his way to the TV, we see a note hanging on the refrigerator that reads, "Working late tonight. Dinner is in the fridge. Mommy loves you. XOXO. Fiddling with the antennas atop the large, boxy TV, the boy sees something rush by the nearby window. Its shadow cast by the full moon hanging ominously over the rural home. Jumping to his feet, the child, with heavy breath, keeps his eyes on the window, backing up until his back hits the wall. Scanning from window to window, there's nothing. The child feels on the wall with his hands until he makes contact with the light switch, but as he flips it up and down anxiously, he remains in darkness. Looking to the corner of the room, he sees a large chest that seems to pique his interest. Gulping and taking one last look at the window, he charges toward the chest and throws it open. Within the chest, hanging from the lid, is a crayon-drawn image depicting a large, hellish creature with red eyes and a blue and red torso looming over skeletons in the darkness. The child digs through the chest, weaving through fabric softener, newspaper headlines of cryptids until finally he grabs a flashlight. Turning on the beam, he looks around the house, seeing that the door is ajar. Slowly moving over, the child looks out the window before softly pushing it closed. Setting the flashlight on the table beside him, the child uses both hands to secure the deadbolt, chain lock, and other means of barring the door. But with the light shining behind him, we can see what it is he is trying to keep out, already lurking within the house. Perched unnaturally in the corner of the ceiling, like a deranged acrobat wearing a tattered sweater covered in black decayed blood and with stains of homicide coating every inch of his yellow skin, the hill figure drools maliciously, opening its maw and letting out a predatory hiss. The child turns just in time to see the creature lunge at him. Bang! The door is blasted open with a gunshot.
Get down!
A man wearing all denim and a cowboy hat, holding a rifle, aims at the hill figure as the child ducks for cover. Lunging on the coffee table, atop the refrigerator, and all over the house, the creature evades shot after shot. One bullet strikes a lamp, another the TV. A shot goes right through one of the odes written on the note hanging from the fridge. Letting out unearthly growls and snarls, the hill figure leaps out the window and rushes into the night.
Damn, he got away.
What is that thing?
That right there, young one, is a monster. And the only way you kill one of them is with one of these.
The man in denim brandishes a silver bullet, loading it into his rifle.
I'm coming for you, varmint!
The man begins to climb out the window. Who are you?
The name's Strauss. Levi Strauss. And I will not be paying for these damages.
Levi Strauss fires his gun into the air and rushes off into the night.
Scene. Hey y'all, Wyatt Brower here. I just want to have a special message for you guys. I want to let you know that we love our fans. We love everything that you've done for us and that you've continued to listen. But we have some big news. This is our final episode of season 1.
Of season 1, yes.
We got you. We're going to be back. There's no real timetable, but we will return. Taking a little break, preparing for season 2.
It's a lot of work to do anything really.
This seems like it's not, but for us at least, it's been wearing us dry.
Wearing us dry?
Wearing us totally dry. So we're gonna go away. We're gonna get wet. We're gonna come back
with more sequels, more movies,
maybe a spin-off or two,
maybe prequels,
more guests, more fun, really.
Not too much fun.
And we haven't really opened it up before, at least not totally. But we want your opinions. We want your sequels. We want ideas. We want this to be a budding community here with the Brower Brothers. So if you ever want to reach out to us, you can reach us at thebrowerbrothers@gmail.com. Send us any inquiries, any ideas for future sequels. You know, if you're like a devoted fan for some reason and you make art, I've seen that done.
Just grasping at straws here, Wyatt.
Just, please do something for us. You have been with the Brower Brothers.